Hey everybody, ronarray here. Different classes and ascendancies looks completely amazing in Path of Exile 2, and I'm sure you want to try them all. However, all of us will need to choose one class to start with. In this video, I have invited a group of great content creators that will explain all classes to help you pick the one that fits you the best. I'm also going to showcase gameplay together with various ratings that will help you understand what each class can offer. You can also check the links to all the creators in the description, and we have all partnered with Mobalytics to post our builds there for early access, so check them out too. Look into the timestamps for particular topics and let's go!
Hi, I'm Fearless Dumbo, and I am a bossing enthusiast very excited about a crossbow-wielding mercenary. It looks like an incredibly fun mashup of clear and bossing capability, which is a rare combination in Path of Exile. It also looks like one of the most flexible archetypes where you could really lean into map blasting clear with Zealous Inquisition and high APS ranged ammunition, or go for DPS and combo something like Permafrost with big booms from Explosive Grenade, which has some of the highest effective attack damage of any of the skills we've seen so far. As a longtime Path of Exile player, seeing the mercenary rip up packs of mobs immediately sold me on the crossbow. Jonathan mentions that there are 22 active skills for crossbows, which leaves huge room for varied gameplay, and true to the nature of a shooter, you aren't waiting long for projectiles to hit like you might with a caster class. The first ascendancy for Mercenary is the Witchhunter. It has one of the most promising ascendancy nodes in Judge, Jury, and Executioner. This works on the other end of the boss's health bar from Cult and can take off up to 30% of the enemy's health with the first hit, which is massive. If we get big damage modifiers for low life enemies like we did in PoE 1, this also indirectly boosts the value of that damage uptime. Zealous Inquisition also looks borderline broken to me. It's 10 to 20% chance to proc, but it has a massive damage potential at 100% of the maximum life pool and will scale with AoE modifiers, which are probably already scaling to maximize the output of your grenades. To put this in perspective, Arias End in PoE 1 is considered an exceptional clearing tool and often fills out a flash slot to supplement clear, and it deals a tenth of the mob's maximum life pool as damage. The second Ascendancy, Gemling Legionaire, could be absolutely broken depending on what the final state of gems looks like. Not having to care about attribute requirements means you could go full strength stacker and still have access to dex ammunition like Glacial Bolt or Fragmentation rounds, and build substantial defense in the process with additional max resistance. Or if you wanted to shed the crossbow, you could lean into dual-wielding two-handers with Giant's Blood to fully avoid the downside. I expect Gemling Legionaire to be one of the most versatile ascendancies in early access, but also the biggest question mark because we don't have a ton of skill and support information yet. Even with limited information, some of the potential combos for high single target look amazing. Take this for example. You set up a huge freeze on an enemy with Permafrost, supported by Glaciation and Hypothermia. Drop a flame wall to provide added flat fire damage, and then lob a handful of explosive grenades carrying Frostfire through the wall, which will double the effect of the ignite, with powerful notables like repeating explosives adding 20% chance for an additional activation. For clear, because we're projectile based, we get all the goodies that range characters get like Chain and Pierce, meaning in our weapon swap we can build out a full screen clear machine with juice pops on top thanks to Zealous Inquisition. Mercenary is also positioned to be one of the big winners of WASD movement, which feels incredible to play if you've not experienced it yet. More than anything else though, Mercenary just looks really fun to play, and I'll be starting my build efforts there.
So I'm ronarray and I'm going to play Monk myself. So stay tuned for all type of Monk content on my channel. I like the Monk because the class looks like quicker and more elemental or chaos oriented version of the warrior. If you like fast paced gameplay, want to have a decent clear speed, not afraid of combo oriented playstyle, and want to be tanky enough to meet some enemies head on, Monk will be a perfect class for you. Right now, Monk has a variety of skills that includes dash into enemies, and combined together with dodge roll, the class should feel more fluid and excel at speed farming. To improve the damage, Monk can use different element-imbued attacks and utilize power charges. In the most footage that we have seen, Monk has been using cold or lightning skills as the main ability. Yet I'm sure the class can utilize more unusual skill combination as well, but we will need some time to explore it. The first ascendancy for Monk is Invoker. It is elemental oriented warrior that would mostly utilize various sources of shock and freeze to empower abilities and create dedicated ground effect. If Unbound Avatar will be close to its PoE 1 counterpart, it would provide a huge DPS increase, but uptime will not be close to 100%. Elemental Expression is a great way to trigger some effects when you crit, and Fate as a choice can double your energy shield, which sounds absolutely crazy for your survivability. For now, Invoker looks like a pretty tanky energy shield stacking class, and the way to go if you want to get a huge energy shield pool. With Ephemeral Edge or something similar be in PoE 2, we can only hope, but if there will be some version of a unique item like that, Invoker will definitely use it. And the second Ascendancy for Monk is my absolute favorite, Acolyte of Chayula. This Ascendancy transforms the Monk into a follower of the Dark Arts, providing various Chaos related bonuses. For example, Chayula's gift passive will improve your Chaos resistance, which sounds nice, but Embrace the Darkness can add a new darkness mechanic to your Monk, replacing the Spirit, your resource that you usually use for Orath, with Darkness, which could protect your life and energy shield, or provide even more damage with Grasp of the Void. Initially, Monk could have some mana issues, and I will be worried about it at least a little, but for Disciple of Chayula it's an easy thing to overcome, with Ravenous Doubts that make your mana leech instant, solving your mana issues. Consuming Question will make your mana leech recover energy shield as well, providing survivability boost, so you can tank some hits if necessary, making a Disciple an excellent pick for builds around leech and recovery. I think for Disciple one of the strongest points is Chaos Authentics, and the opportunity to do Chaos damage instead of Elemental, which can bypass energy shield. I also hope that monsters will have less Chaos resistance than Elemental resistance, but we will see about that. Overall, I'm sure that Monk will be able to take a nice place in the meta of Path of Exile 2, while providing a balanced combination of offense and defense, exactly like Yin and Yang.
Welcome back, you filthy exiles, and I'm Jorgen. As you can see, I've broken out the helmet and I'll be your warrior guide for Path of Exile 2. If you like slamming things with even bigger things and being an overall big hulking tank, this is probably the class for you. Now, from the gameplay trailer of the warrior that was showcased, it basically showed us huge wide area hits which just absolutely devastate enemies, followed up by chaining hits which then link off those AoE hits. In particular, the shield wall and resonating shield are two of the skills that stand out for me as my personal picks. I really like the idea of essentially being an earthbender and then pulling up a heap of ground and then smashing your shield with your weapon to shockwave and blow everything up and kill all your enemies in front of you. In the footage that was shown, it did also show that you have directional blocking and the ability to raise your shield up moving forwards, which allows 100% block to all inbound damage depending on the direction it comes from. This is capped by your essentially your stun meter that, you know, if you get hit enough times, you know, eventually you won't be as tanky, but I'm sure there's ways that we'll get around that as well. The first Ascendancy class that was revealed in the footage in the release was for the warrior was the Warbringer. This Ascendancy allows you to summon ancestral spirits and empower totems with them. It also gives you the ability to Warcry with no cooldown and then explode corpses with those Warcries for good measure. I really like this. This is awesome. I tried to do this in Path of Exile 1. The game didn't let me, but now it's in the game. This is actually a Singer build. Now additionally, with Jade Heritage on this Ascendancy, you'll be able to face big hits and shake them off because this essentially allows you to garner Jade stacks, which then allows you to face tougher enemies and essentially thwart the attempts for your impending doom. The second Ascendancy, and the one that stands out to me the most, is the Titan. With this Ascendancy, you have access to Earthbreaker, and when one slam isn't enough, sometimes you just need an aftershock to finish the job off. Now, the other nodes shown for the Titan Ascendancy is Crushing Impacts, which allows you to inflict huge amounts of damage on enemies with crushing blows, but my favorite thing is Surprising Strength. This allows you to do 40% increased damage against heavy stunned enemies, and don't worry, we will be doing a lot of stunning hits, especially with shields. Now, the combo potential for the warrior is absolutely awesome. Personally, this is the class that stands out to me as the one that I want to play the most, but here's a couple of ideas of what you could do with builds potentially for Path of Exile 2 when the game comes out. Firstly, because of the Warbringer's node called Warcaller's Bellow and Great Wolf's Howls, Firstly, because of the Warbringer node, Warcaller's Bellow, and Great Wolf's Howl, this would allow you to potentially create a Singer build using Seismic Cry, which now applies base physical damage, which wasn't possible in Path of Exile 1. But my favourite build idea so far, and I have many, is the one that I'll be running using shields and the Titan Ascendancy to abuse Earthbreaker with Shield Wall and Surprising Strength. My idea is to engage the enemy with shield charge, hit the shield wall up to earthbend ground from the depths, and then smash this ground and send shrapnel at enemies using resonating shield, which allows you to smash your own shield and send out shockwaves towards the enemies. And then essentially follow this up with a weapon switch to a two-hand setup with Hammer of the Gods. So overall, if you're a slower player but enjoy more impactful gameplay, but love huge defenses and being able to face tank enemies, the Warrior might just be the right class for you.
How's it everyone, this is Lockhall and I'm going to be talking about the Ranger. Now I love the Ranger because of a quick and dynamic combat style. If you're more into the WASD playstyle and moving and shooting and enjoy a faster paced gameplay, then check out the Ranger. The Ranger has a wide variety of lightning, ice, physical, and poison abilities, which allows her to be very versatile in different combat situations. For her lightning attacks, these allow her to shoot arrows that bounce between packs of enemies. She can also shoot arrows that electrocute and temporarily immobilize bosses, and she can also cover the battlefield in arrows which explode upon being hit. Now her poison attacks, some allow her to shoot arrows that leave clouds of poison that deal damage over time. She can also shoot arrows that litter the battlefield in these poison pustules that explode on enemies. This pairs quite nicely with her ice attacks, which allow her to incorporate some movement in her abilities. These abilities, they will freeze and slow enemies. You can combine this with your poison abilities. If you've shot a poison cloud, you want to slow the enemies, now they can't escape that poison cloud. So there's a lot of comboing happening with these different elemental types. Now let's talk about the Ascendancies. One that we saw was the Deadeye. This is a classic Path of Exile Ascendancy that allows the character to be even faster, fire off more arrows more accurately. This Ascendancy should work really nicely if you're interested in playing an elemental based ranger, as you'll be able to shoot more arrows more quickly, clearing packs, perfect blasting Ascendancy. Now if you're more interested in the poison based ranger, you could check out the Pathfinder Ascendancy. This class will increase the effectiveness of your poisons and allow them to propagate throughout packs as you deal poisons. The Pathfinder also gains access to special concoctions, which you can throw at enemies to cause them to bleed and become shocked. And on top of that, the Pathfinder gets access to the running assault node, which allows her to move at almost full speed while moving and shooting. So if you're a player who's into highly mobile, fast, ranged gameplay, check out the Ranger. I think you're going to enjoy it.
I'm Talkative Tri, and I love the Infernalist Witch because she is unlike anything we've ever seen in other ARPGs, fantasy-wise. She has a transform. She has a powerful minion that absorbs massive amounts of damage. She focuses on spells and a brand new way to manage your mana. You're not bringing down mana, you're building up heat. And all of that is phenomenal. But the theme isn't the only good part of it. This is an ARPG after all, and we have to think about what types of builds you can play as an Infernalist Witch. You should try out the Infernalist if you'd like to play a crazy Ignite build with massive meaty fire hits that cause Ignites to spew across your enemies, damage over time effects which bring them down via flame. This is also supposedly the minion Ascendancy, and even though we only have 4 of the notable passives from the Ascendancy so far, we can already see that with this special Summon Infernal Hound, which can act as a meat shield, but also do some substantial damage in your stead. And honestly, you can do a mix of minion and ignite because of the Bringer of Flame passive, which says, while not on low infernal flame, all damage from you and your minions contributes to ignite chance and magnitude. Magnitude in this case is merely an ignite multiplier. Your minions and yourself are going to contribute massively to damage over time burning effects. Seriously, we know so little about the Infernalist, but from what we do know, she looks like an amazing minion, damage over time, or just fire-based Ascendancy, and I'm sure we're going to learn all those other nodes very soon in the lead-up or at Path of Exile 2 Early Access launch.
I like the Witch because the Blood Mage Ascendancy looks crazy. I'm generally not a minions kind of guy, so the Witch usually wouldn't be my thing, but the Blood Mage completely flips the script when it comes to the Witch. A class that so far has been showcased around the minions and chaos damage over time. The Blood Mage though has none of that. Instead, it's focused on something that's typically not even associated with the side of the passive tree that the Witch starts on, and that's life stacking and life recovery. And this really interests me because one of the most fun things about buildcraft in Path of Exile is the problem solving along the way. Building a life stacking class from the top of the tree, now that's a fun task. The Blood Mage is forced to take the Sanguimancy notable, which makes skills gain a base life cost equal to mana cost, and in return makes slain enemies drop life remnants which can be collected to restore life. Now, this may sound fairly trivial, but having played Path of Exile 2 just 2 weeks ago at an event in Los Angeles, I can say from my own experience and from what I've heard from others, that Path of Exile 2 is a war of attrition, at least in the early game. Resource management is a real issue. This class has a ton of recovery built into it just from the few nodes we've already seen, with life gain from the remnants and a massive amount of spell life leech should you choose to allocate it. Meanwhile, the Gore Spike node turns your life into a weapon, scaling critical damage bonus based on total maximum life. This makes life stacking incredibly powerful, because that will also help to scale any percentage-based modifiers you have, such as life regeneration, as you stack your life pool higher and higher. I'm interested to see how this Ascendancy plays out and whether it will be worthwhile sacrificing your mana and taking the Blood Magic Keystone to allow you to fully focus on just life scaling. That would of course require you to path down to the strength aligned area of the passive tree. Now, while that may sound a bit odd, Gore Spike scales generic crit damage bonus, not specifically for spells, which means if you wanted to, you can absolutely play a life stacking attack based build, which would synergize well with the newfound location on the passive tree near Blood Magic. Regardless, this Ascendancy has many avenues you could go down. The notables really leave a lot of room for customization and are very much open to interpretation.
Hi, I'm Asmo, and one of the classes that stood out the most for me was the Sorceress. If you like the archetype of a powerful and versatile spellcaster that can bend the rules of the game in their favor, this is the class for you. The gameplay trailer for the Sorceress was showcasing the fastest clear speed out of all of the classes due to the usage of the powerful elemental projectile skills like the Fireball and the Spark skill. And in the footage that was shown, they had really good projectile speed, which means that they can reach pretty far, and since they are spells, you're not penalized by needing more accuracy to hit faraway targets, as is the case with attack skills, making the elemental spellcaster one of the prime candidates for dominating the clear speed meta. The first Ascendancy class revealed for the Sorceress is the Storm Weaver. This Ascendancy will give you tons of damage. It is similar to Elementalist from PoE 1 with extra synergies for critical strikes that can spawn elemental storms under your enemies whenever you crit an enemy, making your high damage spell hits deliver even more devastation. The Stormweaver also gets the familiar Shaper of Storms node, which allows all of your damage to shock your enemies, and similarly to PoE 1, shocked monsters will take more damage from you, and this is one of the most powerful debuffs that you can inflict on them. And on top of that, the Strike Twice passive will allow the shock debuff to stack twice on the target, so as a Sorceress you can double its effectiveness, which is absolutely bonkers. And that's not even the craziest part of this class, because the second Ascendancy available to the Sorceress looks absolutely game-breaking. The Chronomancer grants you the ability to manipulate time in many useful ways. You can return your character to a few seconds in the past, restoring your health and position similarly to how Echo Ultimate works in League of Legends, and of course you can freeze the time. In the trailer, time freeze duration looked to be about 2.5 seconds and affected all of the enemies in range, but it is yet to be revealed if it can affect bosses and if we can manipulate its duration. But knowing GGG, there will be lots of ways that you can customize and change how this ability works. Either way, it's an immensely powerful, unconditional crowd control that allows you to completely bypass the ordinary rules of combat in Path of Exile 2. The time freeze ability has a cooldown, but fear not, for there is an even crazier ability to combo it with, the time snap. Similarly to Cold Snap from World of Warcraft, this ability resets your cooldowns, which means that you can chain one time stop after another. However, there seems to be diminishing returns. Similarly to how other crowd control debuffs in PoE 2 work, the second time stop will have a little bit shorter duration on enemies that were recently affected by it, but the combo potential of Chronomancer seems to be absolutely crazy. Here are a few examples. If you stack sources of increased skill duration, you can use something like the Frost Bomb, which gains more damage the longer its duration. Time freeze the enemies on top of it, and then time snap to reset both cooldowns, and Frost Bomb plus time freeze again. Once the time freeze ends, the Frost Bombs will decimate anything caught in the area. This type of playstyle would be too slow for regular mapping, but it could allow you to fight enemies that are way above your level and do incredibly challenging content that would otherwise be impossible to complete. It is unconfirmed whether the time snap cooldown reset works on all abilities or just the spells, but if it does work on attacks, another possible combo would be to utilize an attack skill with the longest cooldown revealed so far, Hammer of the Gods, which has a 24-second cooldown. The combo would look something like this. You Seismic Cry, Hammer of the Gods, freeze time, and then reset your cooldowns with Time Snap, allowing you to repeat all 3 abilities again for an equivalent of dropping all of the moons of Jupiter on some random guy's head. And even if Time Snap can only reset the cooldowns of spells, combining it with attacks can make for a very flashy playstyle. I cannot wait to see what the third Ascendancy will be, but judging by the first 2, the Sorceress is shaping up to be one of the most powerful classes.
So that's been my video about picking your class. Hope it will help you to have more fun on launch and pick the class that will suit your playstyle. Thank you everybody who participated in that video, and I really appreciate you coming up for it. It was really fun working on it, and I hope all of us will have an amazing start in early access of Path of Exile 2. See you next time, and ronarray out.